This is it. This is the brand new iPad Pro. You can call this the iPad Pro 3rd generation, the iPad Pro 2018, or even the big iPad X that everyone was expecting. Yeah, this is it, guys. And here's the thing, I made the first video on the iPad X, the first Leaks and Rumors episode, back in November 2017, so basically a full year ago. And I was really looking forward to this for an entire year. And now that I have it, I think my hype has actually died off quite a bit. But I've had this for a full month now, and this is my full in-depth review covering the design, the display, the performance, accessories, features, battery price, and everything you need to know about a 2018 iPad Pro. So grab some snacks, some drinks, sit back, relax, and enjoy. If you want to make your iPad's display feel like real paper when you're using the Apple Pencil, check out Paperlike, our sponsor for this video. Use the link in the description or the code ZOT10 for a 10% discount when buying Paperlike. Okay, so starting off with the actual design, the 2018 iPad Pro is actually the biggest design change in an iPad since the introduction of the original iPad back in 2010. So first off, the space gray color is now darker. It's even darker than the space gray on the MacBook Pros, and it's almost an exact match to the Mac Minis and iMac Pros space gray. So yeah, it looks so much better than the previous iPad Pro space gray, which was pretty much silver. The smart connector is now vertical and located on the bottom, and interesting enough, the back of the new 2018 iPad Pro looks almost identical to the leaked iPhone 7 prototype from a while back. Interesting. The sides of the new iPad are also flat now, so no more wedge shape and chamfered edges. This is actually the first time an iPad has had a flat frame since the first iPad in 2010. And the entire body is also thinner now by 0.2mm, making the 5.9mm thin iPad Pro 2018 the thinnest iOS device that Apple has ever released. But strangely enough, it actually feels thicker than the previous 10.5-inch 2017 iPad Pro, just by the fact that the frame is not curved anymore. And of course that the biggest design change by far is, on the front. So the home button has been removed entirely, Face ID has been added for unlocking, the bezels have been made extremely thin, and everything is gesture-based now. So you swipe up to go home, and just like on the iPhone 10, you swipe down from the top right corner to activate the control center. Again, just like on the iPhone 10, you swipe left or right on the bottom to switch between open apps. Literally, the only problem that I have with the gestures is that whenever I try to bring up the dock from within an app, in iOS 11 you would swipe up, but now in iOS 12 this takes you back home, so you have to swipe very slowly to bring up the dock, and yeah, it takes quite a bit of time getting used to and learning how to do that right. But overall, the best part about the new design is that a 2018 iPad Pro is even smaller than last year's 10.5-inch iPad Pro, but actually comes with a larger 11-inch display. And speaking of the display, it's actually really good, like really good. No, honestly, it's amazing. So it's a 2388 by 1668 resolution panel at 264 ppi, so it's very sharp, and it's also a DCI-P3 panel, so colors are very accurate, and they simply pop. The reflectivity is at 1.8%, which is even lower than the reflectivity on the MacBook Pros, and the best part about this display is that it's actually a 120Hz panel, which means that everything you see here is displayed at 120 frames per second, which is mind-blowing. Animations just flow, games feel more realistic than ever. I mean, most of you who have gaming PCs, you probably don't even have a monitor about 60 Hz, but the ones of you that do probably know what I mean when I say, wow, this thing is crazy fluid. You actually have to see it in person to realize how good it is, because this video is in 30 frames per second, and this display is 4 times that frame rate. I mean, really, my only complaint with the display, interesting enough, are actually the bezels. I mean, yes, Apple did make the bezels thinner, but since we now have Face ID, instead of adding a notch, Apple made the entire frame of the iPad the same size as the notch, so to say, and as a result, the side bezels are actually thicker than on last year's 10.5-inch iPad. And it's a bit weird, but it doesn't feel as bezel-less and as immersive as the iPhone 10 does. Instead, it resembles the older pre-iPad Air models of the iPad, which had a uniform bezel all across the device. The upside is that now, you cannot really tell which side is up, so you can pick up your iPad and start using it right away, and everything feels very natural. And if you're blocking the Face ID camera by any chance, the iPad's actually going to show you with an arrow to uncover it, so yeah, I do love that. And the back-facing camera has also been improved. You can now record 4K 60 video, and you can also do portrait mode shots and portrait lighting with a front-facing camera, same as you can with the iPhone 10, plus animojis, memojis, everyone loves those. Okay, so how's the performance on this new iPad? Well, looking at the raw numbers, it's quite quite shocking, like shockingly good. In Geekbench 4, the 2018 iPad Pro is even faster than last year's top-of-the-line 15-inch MacBook Pro with the Intel 7920H group processor, which is the most powerful laptop processor that Intel has ever made for the 7th generation, which is shocking. And when compared to the 2018 MacBook Pro, it's very close to even the i9 15-inch MacBook Pro in performance. Keep in mind that the Apple A12X processor inside the new iPad Pro is also fanless, so there is no fan inside this thing. So yeah, what Apple's doing with their processors is just mind-blowing. Props to Apple for designing this, and to TSMC for manufacturing this. Also, it's based on a 7nm process already. Keep in mind that Intel is still struggling with 10nm, which Apple and TSMC have released literally last year. Now, in terms of video editing, here I have a 4K 12-minute timeline, and my 2018 i9 MacBook Pro exported this in 15 minutes in high quality and 7 minutes and 42 seconds in faster export. On the iPad, however, you don't really get any export options apart from 4K, but the iPad Pro exported this in 12 minutes and 39 seconds, almost a 1-to-1 export, which was actually 3 minutes faster than the MacBook Pro in better quality mode. Yeah. Wow, I'll actually cover more about the usability and actual, day-to-day performance in the following sections of this video. So what about the accessories? Well, with the biggest redesign in an iPad, we also get the biggest redesign in an Apple Pencil. So this is the 2nd generation Apple Pencil, and it's so much better than the previous generation. It's smaller, it's got a matte texture rather than a glossy one, so it's actually easier to grip. And the best part is that it now magnetically attaches to the top of the iPad, and it automatically pairs and charges without you having to plug into the bottom of the iPad like before and risk breaking the iPad or the Apple Pencil. You also get the gesture area here, so now you can double tap to change the brush and the color. You even get a separate Apple Pencil menu options in the settings, and you even get to choose a custom engraving when you're ordering your Apple Pencil. So that's all really cool. I mean, literally the only thing that's missing from the Apple Pencil is the grip. Whenever I use the Apple Pencil on the iPad's display, it still feels like sliding a pencil on a piece of glass. But luckily, this can be easily fixed with Paperlike, our sponsor for this video. Paperlike is a thin screen protector that you apply to the iPad, and it makes the entire Apple Pencil experience on the iPad feel like real paper instead of the slippery feel that you normally have. So if you're a digital artist, you can be far more precise when using apps such as Procreate or Affinity Photo. If you're a student or a business user, you can take notes longer without your hand cramping up, or literally for anyone with the Apple Pencil, the Paperlike will provide a much more natural and intuitive feel when using it. It's pretty cool, and as an extra, it also sounds like real paper when you're writing or drawing on the display. Paperlike also offers a 100% money-back guarantee, so definitely give it a try and decide if it's something for you. Use the link in the description or the coupon code ZOT10 for a 10% discount when ordering your Paperlike, and thanks again to Paperlike for sponsoring this video. Now, the Smart Keyboard also got a pretty big upgrade. It's now called the Smart Folio Keyboard because it now protects both the front as well as the back. And it's not just that, but it's also much easier to fold and unfold now, so it attaches with magnets to the back of the iPad, and even the 2 viewing angles that we now have are full of magnets, so it's very easy to angle it now. However, the keys themselves are still very mushy. The keyboard is not backlit like many other less expensive third-party options, and you're also missing the function keys for brightness, volume, and so on, which is very frustrating. I've actually left a link in the description for a third-party keyboard that's way better than what Apple offers with function keys and costs about 20% of the price of, this one, the Apple keyboard. Now, since this is an iPad and a lot of you, if not even most of you, would be using this for watching videos, well, the speakers are actually very important here. And same as before, we get 4 speakers, 2 on each side, and they sound, well, amazing. So here's a comparison with the 2017 iPad Pro and the 2018 MacBook Air as well. This is it, the new 2018 MacBook Air, and this is my full in-depth review covering everything from the design, the display, the performance, video editing, speakers, battery life, and most importantly, who is this product for? Now, in terms of the battery life, Apple claims up to 10 hours of use, which is mostly true. So if you write notes or even watch videos, this can indeed last you 10 hours of continuous use. If you play games or use most intensive apps, you can get about 6 hours or so. So yeah, this also depends on how high you set the brightness to, but yeah, regardless, the battery life on the new iPad Pro is really, really good. Same as on all the previous iPads. Really good. Okay, so before getting to my conclusion, I want to talk about the price a bit. So the new iPad Pro is more expensive, much more expensive actually, than last year's model, which was already more expensive than the first iPad Pro. So this one starts from $800 or 770 pounds compared to $650 that last year's model costs, and $600 for the original iPad Pro. And that's, by the way, for the baseline 64GB model. So this is already in laptop price territory, and if you add in the Apple Pencil and the Apple Keyboard, both of which are more expensive than last year's models, well, the price is actually 1,070 pounds, which is very close to the price of a MacBook Air or even a MacBook Pro. Keep in mind, this is for the baseline 64GB model. If you max this thing out, it's actually going to cost you 2,200 pounds. A 15-inch MacBook Pro, guys, just to give you guys an idea, starts from 2,350. So yeah, not too far off. Okay, so as a conclusion, there's no denying that the new 2018 iPad Pro is not just the best iPad yet, but literally the best tablet out there, and that's by a huge margin. I mean, there's literally nothing that even comes close to this. But yeah, here's the thing, the 2018 iPad Pro is still an iPad. It's not a laptop replacement, at least not for me. It doesn't have mouse support, which means that your wrist would get tired if you're using the iPad up instead of flat on a desk for a long period of time. Now, it does have a USB Type-C port, which should have been a game changer, but it's actually not. So yes, you can use your MacBook Pro charger to charge this, so that's quite cool, but monitor support is still very limited, so you can only mirror a display, which means that unless you're a teacher or you have a presentation to do, using a second monitor is pointless at the moment because, you'd still have to look at the iPad anyways, since, there's no mouse support, so that's where the controls are on the iPad. Monitor extension is actually supported in some apps, but not on the home screen, so yeah, I believe there's about 2 to 3 apps that actually support this. So it has to be enabled by the developer, but again, if you have no mouse support, then it's still pointless. And if you're a video editor and you want to import, I don't know, your files on the iPad, it does not support external hard drives, so you'll need a very large capacity iPad if you have large files, which would get really expensive. So yeah, the only way to transfer those shots is by using an SD card adapter. And then there's also no proper file manager on iOS, so yeah, that's the thing, there's a lot of workarounds and issues that the iPad Pro has, and all of those are because of iOS. So yeah, instead of the iPad adapting to your workflow, you have to be the one that adapts to the iPad and, find workarounds which are slower, or most of the times even impossible to do on the iPad when compared to, doing the same thing on a laptop. I tried using an iPad for 2 months as my 12-inch MacBook replacement, and after 2 months, I actually went back to the 12-inch MacBook because it was still so much more capable than the iPad was. Now, if you don't plan on editing video and you're a graphic designer, for example, the iPad Pro is actually way better than the MacBook Pro is, since the Apple Pencil input is just so good, especially when using apps such as Affinity Photo, which is basically a full Photoshop replacement, or Procreate. It's really the perfect device for things like this. And even if you plan on creating music, the iPad Pro is incredibly intuitive, since everything is based on touch. Now, the only problem is, when you're making music, you want to listen through some high-end wired headphones, and you might also want to have a MIDI keyboard plugged in because, Bluetooth headphones and keyboards have a delay. Well, Apple has removed the headphone jack, so you cannot do that anymore. I get that Bluetooth is the future, but for music production, especially because of the latency that we have right now, you still need a physical connection, which the iPad Pro has killed. Also, some users have reported that a new iPad Pro is actually bending in their backpack, which can indeed be a concern. So yeah, I would suggest waiting for the next model for the structural integrity issues to be getting a fix. Okay, so in the end, I'm pretty sure that all the software limitations of the iPad Pro would be eventually fixed in iOS 13 or iOS 14 or, I don't know, iOS 98. But yeah, until then, this is still an iPad. And this was my full in-depth review of the 2018 iPad Pro. So yeah, if you have enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this one, definitely subscribe and notifications by tapping on that bell icon, and let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of the new iPad Pro 2018? Do you think it's worth it? Would you actually use this thing as a laptop replacement? Obviously depends on your workflow, you might be able to do that. Personally, I cannot. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about the new iPad Pro. Also guys, if you enjoy the channel and you want to support it even further, you can become a member, you can join the zone, and you also get access to some pretty cool exclusive features, such as some badges that evolve over time, and also priority comments in the live stream. So yeah, thank you for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. It took a really long time to make, so all that feedback is really appreciated. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Zone of Tech, signing out. Cheers.